So we understand you have been associated with IIT Madras practically throughout your life. Please tell us about the different roles you have had.
Well, I started off as a campus kid, growing up in the campus. Then uh, did my BTech here. So I studied in this Vanavani school on campus from my kindergarten to my second class, KVIIT from third to 12th, and I was the first 10 plus 2 batch student. And then BTech at IIT Madras from 1979 to 1984, and then as a faculty member here since 91.
So can you give us the dates when you were a campus resident, when you studied in the institute, and when you joined the faculty?
Yeah, as I just told you, I I've been in the campus since I think my dad was a faculty member in the chemical engineering department here. So I've been here since I think early 1963, when I was less than a year old when we moved in here. And uh, as I told you, I studied in the various schools and been a student from 79 to 84 and a faculty since 91. Yeah.
So do you know of any others who have had such an extended association with the institute?
Yeah, there are a few other uh, persons who are probably now a little junior to me now. There is, for example, Shrikant in engineering design department, who grew up in the campus, and then did his BTech here, went abroad, came back. Then Dr. Anirudh Shankaran in electrical engineering department. He's another guy who are, but they're all junior to me about 6-7 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, I think there are a few more who are now coming in. Yeah. But I guess right now I am the longest resident on campus.
What was it like to live on the campus during your school days?
It was a lot of fun, lot of kids, because those were the early days of the formation of IIT. A lot of young faculty had joined, so there were a lot of kids of my age group growing up in the campus, and most of these kids at those days, almost everyone went to either Vanwani school or KVIIT. Unlike now, where quite a few faculty kids are going to schools outside. And and all of us were great friends. You know, the kinds of activities we had those days, playing gilli danda, marbles, tops. We had seasonal games. We used to climb the jamun trees to pluck jamuns. I don't think the kids today do all those things.
Yeah.
And in those days, a lot of kids from KV, especially on campus, would get into IIT. Every year, about 10 to 12 students got into IIT, whereas now it's barely 1 or 2 a year. So there was, and the KV on campus was rated one of the best schools in the country, and so on. So it was real fun growing up on campus.
So where did you do your postgraduate studies, and did you work outside IIT Madras?
Yeah. Well, after finishing my BTech, I had gone to Clemson University in South Carolina, USA. Did my master's and PhD there in the civil engineering department, specializing in the area of construction engineering and project management. But the moment I finished my PhD, when I went to US, those days many more students went to US. That was the time when almost 70%, 60 to 70% of students immediately after the BTech went to US for higher studies, which is much lower now.
Yeah.
And most people didn't come back. And I had decided when I went that I was going to come back. So after I finished my PhD, I defended my PhD. 1 week later, I took the flight and came back to India, and then joined IIT Madras. So I did not work. I taught courses there and so on, but not as a full-time faculty.
So why did you choose to work in IIT Madras?
Well, as I told you, I had a lot of attachment to IIT Madras, but more importantly, IIT Madras has, when I finished my BTech, I didn't think I was going to become an academic. But once I started doing my master's and got involved in research, I felt that that's something that is interesting. Let me do a PhD and then evaluate whether really I want to get into academics or get into consulting or so on. But as I was doing my PhD, I felt I was comfortable with the teaching kind of activities and the research, and I felt that that academics was something that I was getting interested in. And I basically went for an area of construction engineering and project management, which very few people those days would go. For example, in the civil engineering department, the most popular areas where students went for their masters was structural engineering or geotechnical engineering, and few people transportation engineering. So I was probably one of the first persons to go into this area, because at those days I was looking at doing something different from what everyone was doing. And this area looked as an area that had potential and a lot of growth opportunity. I mean, a lot of potential for future activities. So I chose that area. And IIT Madras those days, in India, there were very few institutes offering construction engineering management. The only other IIT that was offering a program related to this was IIT Delhi. And we had a great visionary head of the department at that time in the civil engineering department, Professor C.S. Krishnamurthy. And so the civil engineering department at IIT Madras has got 5 divisions. And those days it was the building technology, structural engineering, geotechnical engineering, transportation engineering, and hydraulic and water resources. The building technology group was comparatively weaker compared to the other divisions. So he had looked at what needs to be done to give this group a boost. And he identified construction engineering and management as one of the possible areas that probably we need to give a boost. We need to get going in this group to take it to a different level. So that's when I was also looking at coming back to India, and Professor C.S. Krishnamurthy knew that I was interested, so he got in touch with me. And so I came back. I didn't have an offer in hand when I came here, but I knew if I don't get here, I'll get in IIT Delhi, so I just took the risk and came back. And then came and gave my presentation here, and immediately they made me an offer as a visiting faculty in the area of, and then we grew that area. And today I can proudly say that the construction engineering management program at IIT Madras is the top program in the country, the leadership program which everyone tries to emulate. And our students are the people who are setting up construction programs, at now running the Delhi program, at IIT Bombay, IIT Guwahati, and other places. So, so that's the reason why I somehow felt here's a good opportunity, and Chennai always is my home base. So, so just got back.
So was the civil engineering department in IIT Madras is the best in India at the moment?
Right.
Was this always the case, or has this?
Yeah, it was always quite strong. Early days, the structural engineering group was very strong. They had fantastic facilities among the other groups. But I think civil engineering department has been fortunate to have visionary leadership. And they grew the other areas, like transportation engineering, for example. We have probably got the biggest group in the country. Building technology and construction management group has become very strong. Those days we didn't have environmental engineering as a separate thing. Now we have environmental and hydraulics. So we've been transforming and growing all the other areas. And today I think we are one of the most comprehensive civil engineering departments in the country. And I think we're very proud of that.
So do you think that other departments should try to emulate the vision civil engineering department takes?
Well, I think each department works in a different way. I think one of the other big, I wouldn't say big, the major advantage civil engineering department had is it has worked as a cohesive department. When you talk to the administrators of the institute, that is the directors, the deans, or they find that civil engineering department is one department where they don't have to worry too much about whether systems will work and so on. And the faculty have worked as a group, very cohesive department. and that helped a lot. For example, civil engineering department is the first department in the institute where they have an annual retreat, where all the faculty members go away to a hill resort or so, along with families. And of course, the families are having fun, but the faculty working, doing visioning, the strategy planning, where do we go, and create a lot of bonding among the faculty members. So this has been a big advantage of the civil engineering department, where they work as a team, and also we have very strong people. So these are some of the things I think the other departments can take some ideas and grow.
So how has the civil engineering curriculum changed since you have joined? What are the factors leading to this change?
I see the civil engineering curriculum in terms of the BTech program. I wouldn't say the number of credits have come down, of course, which is across the institute. This is not specific to civil engineering department. But the basic civil engineering curriculum has not changed that much drastically, in the sense that when you did a 5-year program, we did structural analysis, we had 2 courses of structural analysis. But now you have only 1 core course and you have another one as an elective. So because it become a 4-year program and the number of credits also have been brought down a little bit, certain courses had to be sort of put together, brought into one single course, the curriculum and so on. Other than that, the core essence of civil engineering I don't think has changed much. But then over the years we have brought in a number of new programs, especially at the postgraduate level. The dual degree program in infrastructure engineering, which has been quite successful. Our students are quite sought after by especially a lot of these big transactional advisories like PwC and so on, for the kind of training they have as core civil engineers and infrastructure related courses like infrastructure planning, infrastructure finance, and these kind of courses. Then we have had one of the most successful programs with which I have been very closely associated with is the user-oriented MTech program. So the most successful user-oriented MTech program in IIT Madras is run from the civil engineering department, from actually my group, which is the Building Technology and Construction Management group, on the L&T sponsored user-oriented program on construction technology and management, right? Where we bring in students with civil, mechanical, electrical engineering background. We take students. They take courses across 6 departments, and it is so those are the kinds of user-oriented programs the institute started. We have had some of them earlier, but in the 1990s, late 1990s and so on, the institute started promoting them. And the one in our group is now running for 19 years, where L&T sponsors every year about 30 students. They want to sponsor more, but we have said no because we want to maintain the quality. Okay. And then the Building Technology and Construction Management program that, as I told you, I associated with, has transformed itself from being just a building technology program to building technology and construction management program, and introduced a number of new courses. We keep evolving with the newer trends in research and so on. And the PhD program has grown considerably. We have many more PhD students now and so on.
So who were your teachers in the civil engineering department?
Well, when I was a student, we had a lot of we had some of the senior teachers then. Professor P.S. Rao, who was then Dean Academic Courses also. He taught us concrete structures. Professor C.S. Krishnamurthy, then Professor L.N. Ram Murthy. I'm talking about the structural faculty right now. Professor Aravindan, Professor Parmasivam, and so on, many of them. And then in hydraulics, we had Professor Suresh Rao, Professor Elango, Professor Tandaveshwara. Geotechnical, we had Professor Sankaran, Professor Narasimha Rao, Professor my class. These are the people who taught my class. And N.R. Krishnaswamy in geotechnical. Transportation, we had Professor Victor those days. Then building technology, we had uh, Professor T.P. Ganeshan, and so on. Quite a lot of them were excellent teachers, and we were very fortunate to have them teach us. Yeah.
So, what are some major changes you have noted in the institute over the years, in the campus, the facilities available, and also the attitude of the students?
Okay, the campus has evolved over the years. For example, when I was a student here, it was 2,500 students in the campus. Now it's 8,500 plus. So the size of the campus has grown. I mean, then the area has not grown, but the student strength has grown. So this has required considerable change in the way we accommodate our students, the way we run our hostels, the way we run our campus. When I was a student, each hostel, I was staying in Narmada hostel, and each hostel had about I think 196 students, and each hostel had its own mess, right? And the mess was run by the students. The warden was very much involved. The warden also had to, but then over the years, this model was not sustainable. Right, so they got rid of all the individual hostel messes. Now we have a common Himalaya dining facility and a few other facilities. The tower hostels have come up now, and now everything is going vertical. And the buildings that were built, actually the buildings that were initially built in the campus, if you see BSB, MSB, HSB, even the hostels were all actually, if you really look at it, properly oriented, properly constructed, and functionally efficient. No fancy stuff, but they served their purpose very well. But with the increase in the number of departments also have grown. A lot more departments have come in. From the time I was a student, if you see now, we have Department of Management Studies, Engineering Design. Ocean Engineering was a center then it's become a department, and then biotechnology, right? All these departments have come in recently, and with the growth in research, the lab requirements have grown considerably. So all this is putting a lot of the campus is quite stressed in terms of accommodating these requirements. So now the plan is to make everything vertical, and I was involved in as chairman engineering unit. I was involved in the new master plan of the campus. And so the idea is to remove, for example, the low-rise laboratories. If you take the chemical engineering laboratory or the up to the environmental and water resources laboratory, that whole building, that whole set of labs, we want to demolish them and go vertical, right? And it's an evolving process. The campus is now 65 plus years old. And with the growth, we are having to adapt all these things. So that way the campus has changed quite a bit. When I was a student, there was not a single eating place on campus. There used to be one small place called Knick Knack. That was the only place where the current, all that area has been demolished, where the current academic complex is coming. Okay. If the students wanted a chai, they had to go to Taramani, to the Nair Kade, or one of those places. So there were a lot more eating places, a lot more places where the students can get together and so on. Another thing, big change in life I'm seeing is the students' Saturday night movie used to be a major occasion where all the students went. Everyone brought their pillows and it used to be packed. But now when I go to IIT, I see the students' gallery section is almost empty, right? Now people have access to whether legal or pirated or whatever, songs, movies, everything, and they watch individually in their rooms. So the social, I think, interaction has come down a little bit compared to what it was those days, because the numbers were small and also the technology was not there for you to individually do things. So you tended to do a lot of things together with other students and so on. So that is a big change. The other big change I would say is the institute is much more research focused now. Okay. right? Those days, the research programs were taking off. We had people were very good teachers, and the research. But now, the kinds of grants we bring in, the kinds of focus that we have in research, is much higher. Uh, the so these are some of the changes I see on campus.
So you were saying that the labs in that area, the chemical engineering and all that, you want to make it a high-rise building. So in the interim time, is there a plan for the functioning of the labs?
Yeah, it's not, the whole idea is not to demolish the whole section at one shot.
Okay.
It will be done in phases. So the alternate arrangements have to be made temporarily to house those facilities. So this is over next 20 years or so, not immediately. Yeah.
So would it be correct to state that the civil engineering department is more focused on consultancy projects than on research?
I don't completely agree with that. Of course, civil engineering department is one of the leading departments. It does consultancy along with ocean engineering and electrical engineering to some extent. But I think the fact that we are one of the few departments in the whole country that is ranked in the top 50 departments in the world, you don't get that kind of recognition if you're just doing consultancy, right? So we are also doing research, we are publishing and so on. So if you say relatively the kind of consultancy we do, yes, there's a demand from the country, from the industry, from the use organizations, and we are one of the thing. But I don't think it is at the cost of doing research. Maybe we should do more research, could be, but it's not that we have neglected that part of it.
So in the early years of the institute, there was a very strong workshop component in the curriculum. But this component did not include practical civil engineering. Like, what's the reason for this?
See, actually the way workshop has been taught at IIT Madras has gone through quite a considerable transformation. I think the early days when the IIT started with the German assistants and German aid, I remember as a kid there used to be a lot of Germans on the campus, staying on campus and so on. And those days, I think the Germans felt, unlike the kids in Europe and so on, who have a lot of hands-on experience, do it yourself kind of experience, the kids in India lacked that. So they felt that they needed this workshop training to get their hands, pick up some skills, understand the basic requirements, whether it's carpentry or fitting or welding or smithy or machining and so on. So till the batch before me, or maybe one batch before that, workshop used to be taught for whole day, for 1 week continuously. So the students would go morning to evening, 1 full week workshop in the first year. The second week would be classes, then workshop classes. I think it was my batch where they changed it to 2 afternoons a week. So the emphasis there was on developing those skills, which were general requirements. Civil engineering, by then I think IITs have recognized that early days, for example, even in IIT Madras, I was just speaking to an alumnus who did his metallurgy here and graduated in 73 before I came to this meeting, and he said they had to do civil engineering drawing when he was this thing. But then all that has changed in the curriculum. So I don't think real surveying, for example, if you talk to people who have done their BEs or BTechs in the 50s and 60s, civil engineering surveying was compulsory for all of them. Whether you did mechanical or electrical and so on, drawing was compulsory. But then as the other areas grew, they felt that this was not required. So I don't think the fact that it was not there is something to be concerned about for the other branches.
So can you tell us about some of the interesting or satisfying research or consultancy projects you have led?
Yeah, one of the areas that at least I personally worked on my PhD along with my students is the area of recently the area of public-private partnerships. You know, in India we are our infrastructure development really the country started focusing on infrastructure development, whether there's roads, ports, airports, power, in the 90s, especially late 90s. And they were looking at various models on how do we deliver these projects. And one of the models that was looked at is PPPs, public-private partnerships, and there are various variants to that. So we had done research on risk associated with PPPs, how do you model the risk, identification of risk, modeling the risk, how do you address the risk from various angles, whether it's the contractual part of theirs or whether it's a financial aspect of it. So that's one area that our group still works along with my colleague Ashwin Mahalingam, and all of us still work in this area of project deliveries through various models. The other area, your civil engineering department has always worked very closely with industry. We have had long association with industry, and similarly our group, our building technology and construction management group, has been very active with industry. One initiative that we have in the last 5-6 years quite aggressively worked on is on lean construction practices, bringing in a lot of lean manufacturing ideas into construction. Our estimate is that in any typical construction project, anywhere between 25 to 30% wastage. So how do we identify this wastage? How do we overcome this inefficiencies in projects? So we have been at the forefront in the country in bringing these lean construction practices into the country. My colleagues have been in the forefront in bringing the new way of designing projects and delivery of projects called the BIM, Building Information Modeling Systems. And of late, I've also now started working on, we have been looking at sustainable construction. So I've been looking at C&D waste, construction demolition waste. So, a lot of buildings get demolished. Where do you throw, what do you do with the demolished stuff? Right now, they just go throw it in some canal or someone's backyard or in some lake. And part of the reasons for Chennai floods is this problem. And we feel a lot of it can be recycled instead of just throwing it. On one side, we are demolishing mountains to get aggregates to make concrete. The other side is we're creating these huge mountains of landfills and trash. So we, for example, recently we just did the Chennai city's C&D waste management plan. We found that almost 35 to 40% of the solid waste generated in a city is C&D waste. And that's not recognized by people, or it's not even recognized by the policymakers. So we are now developing models for estimating this. So these are some of the areas that have been quite satisfying in terms of bringing about a change. Right now, for example, now since I'm involved in Tirupati town, we are developing the C&D waste management plan for Tirupati. So these are some of the things. In addition to that, we have been doing a number of other things. I'm just giving you some examples.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you plan to bring about awareness to the policymakers about the sheer magnitude of these wastes?
Yeah, so we've been running a number of workshops, for example. In the last 5-6 years, I've been involved in about 4 or 5 workshops, sensitization workshops, starting from Delhi for the policymakers there, in Chennai, Hyderabad, and so on. And now if you take, and then there's a group of us who have been working on this. And then I got involved in convincing Chennai Corporation that they need to address this, and worked out their what we call DPR, Detailed Project Report, on how to collect this, how do you transport it, how do you process it, how do you recycle it, and so on. So, and then for one of the problems we found is, even if I recycle the material, if I take concrete, crush it, get the aggregate, the Indian code, BIS code, doesn't permit use, or did not explicitly permit, though it didn't bar it, of use of C&D waste in concrete. So now the code has been changed so that it can be used. So these are things you need to work. So one thing is to do research and just publish papers. The other thing is to take it further and work with the policymakers and others to make changes. Another very interesting technology that we have, this is where I think we at IIT Madras have really done successfully, is the GFRG technology, glass fiber reinforced gypsum technology, where again it's a sustainable. So all this we are looking at, how do we make sustainable practices. So gypsum is a raw material from a lot of chemical industry, especially the fertilizer industry, and there are millions of tons of this lying around. So what we're saying is use that, make panels. So the technology comes from an Australian technology, but that technology, our colleagues here, Professor Devdas Menon and Professor Meher Prasad, they've taken the technology much further. In Australia, they had only envisaged it using as wall panels. Now they modified it, changed it as flooring, steps, and also brought about design methodologies to go do multi-story earthquake resistant structures. We did stop with just about 4 or 5 PhD students have worked on this. But then we have gone and done demonstration projects. We did a demonstration building in IIT Madras next to Taramani Guest House. Recently we built 40 apartments in Nellore under our technical guidance along with BMTPC building material to demonstrate the technology. Now at IIT Tirupati, the new hostels we're going to build, we're going to use GFRC technology. Right, and then we are also working with the possible manufacturers of this. It's because one of the constraints is where do you get the material. So we are talking to companies like Saint-Gobain and other possible manufacturers so that we can make this technology, because we strongly believe it's a sustainable technology, and we get a better quality and so on. But a lot of skill is required in doing this work. So we are looking at doing training programs, right? So and then we are working with up to the PMO's office in bringing in directions, bringing in this technology to scale it up. So, for example, Professor Meher Prasad, HOD and I are part of the high-level committee to bring a policy change to enable use of this technology, right? So I think as engineers, we also have to do research, we have to publish. That is an important thing. But if you really want to see its benefit to the society, I think we need to go further and do this, which I think our department has done reasonably well on.
Yes. So recently you have been named as the director of IIT Tirupati. So what are your visions for this institute?
Yeah, so IIT Madras has always taken its whatever it does in a systematic way and with seriousness. So we have earlier mentored IIT Hyderabad. So in 2008, eight IITs had started. And among them, IIT Hyderabad today is probably gone a step ahead of the others in terms of the size and all. The foundation has been laid by us in the first 2 years. Similarly, IIIT DM. So in 2014 and 15, during that period, 6 new IITs have been announced. So in 2014, 5 IITs were announced in Palakkad, in Kerala. Of course, the site was not at Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Goa, and Jammu. And in 2015, the Karnataka IIT was also announced, Dharwad. So IIT Madras, our director, Professor Bhaskar Ramamurthy, came forward to mentor 2 IITs. The one that we are geographically have proximity, the one at Tirupati and Palakkad. So once you mentor, then you're supposed to get the program off the ground, get it going till the director and the chairman and the board is appointed by the ministry, and then they run the show. So Professor Bhaskar Ramamurthy had appointed me as our director, had appointed me as a professor in charge to go and start the new IIT from scratch, zero slate. You just go identify the place where you're going to start a temporary campus, work with the government there, get the faculty to come and teach. So we started with 4 branches of civil. The IITs that started in 2008, all of them started with 3 branches. And each of them took 120 students. This time also, we also took 120 students, but we decided to start with 4 branches: civil, mechanical, electrical, computer science. So civil is something that we brought in, which was other people started much later on. And the institute, I think we have brought it to good shape. We have the second batch running. Now, as a person who has been involved recently, the interviews took place for the new directorships, and yesterday, a day before yesterday, it was there in the press that Professor Sunil and I have been will be appointed as the directors of IIT Tirupati and Palakkad myself. That is myself for Tirupati and Sunil for Palakkad. So for IIT Tirupati, I think, one of the things is if you look at there are 23 IITs now, right? out of which the original 5 IITs and then 2 more, Guwahati started there around 92, 93, and then Roorkee became an IIT around 2002. So they are the 7 old IITs. So we look at them as one set of IITs, which are the older IITs. Then in 2008, 8 more IITs were started, so 15 IITs. And then now 6 IITs have been announced, right? So this is the third set of IITs that are being announced. And in the meantime, recently BHUIT and ISM Dhanbad have also been upgraded to an IIT. Now, IIT Tirupati, I think, has a lot of potential, a lot of advantages. One is the AP government is looking at Tirupati being the knowledge hub, being a major knowledge hub for the state. You know, they call themselves the Sunrise State after the division of the 2 states. ISER Tirupati, there's a new ISER that's come up at Tirupati, which is going to be very close to us, about 3 kilometers. So, there are going to be a lot of challenges. You know, one of the big challenges all of us have is getting good faculty members. And especially when you're in a smaller town, it's a bigger challenge. But its proximity to both Chennai and Bangalore to some extent, and the ecosystem that is developing there, I think gives it has a lot of potential for its future, and the state government that is quite aggressive on pushing these things. So some of the areas that we have identified that we would like to really stand out is one major is going to be smart infrastructure. You know, the country's economy is growing, we are bringing in a lot more infrastructure, and you have various initiatives. So align them with a lot of the government initiatives like smart cities, Digital India, housing for all. So how do we align while having very strong programs at both the undergraduate level and the research level? So I strongly believe that the undergraduate programs we should not tamper too much with them. We should be up to date, but you also look the employability of the graduates. So I think once we get to the postgraduate programs and the research, we need to be highly interdisciplinary. So other areas that we are looking at is food engineering as one of the areas. Of course, the area of energy and so on. So it all, but then I also strongly believe you need to get the right faculty to push these areas. So while we keep these as some of the focus areas, it also will depend, because it is something that we grow together. It's not just that director goes there and says, this is what I'm going to do. A director has to have a vision, but also it depends on the kind of faculty we're able to attract. And if they are able to push certain areas and we see great potential, I think we should be flexible in terms of how we grow those areas. So I think, and the other thing is, we would like to be, the Kakodkar committee has recommended that all the IITs should be about 10,000 to 12,000 students. So for example, IIT Madras, after 65 years, it's come to about 9,500 students, right? So it's been a gradual growth of thing. But I think we need to grow much faster. So I think in about 20 years, we should get to about 10,000 students. So our target is in about 7-8 years to get to the campus we're going to build is going to be, the first phase is going to for a 2,500 student campus. So we'd like to get to that maybe in about 8-9 years to 2,500 students. Maybe in about 13 to 15 years to about 5,000 students. And then maybe in 20-25 years to maybe 10 to 12,000 students.
So how do you balance your time between IIT Madras and IIT Tirupati?
Well, as a professor in charge, I was spending at least 3 days a week in Tirupati once the semester started in August 2015. If required 4 days, but mostly 3 days. And I taught here, while I was there, I was also teaching here. For example, the last semester I did not teach, but the previous semester I taught 2 courses here. So I would try to get my courses 2 days a week. I would spend on teaching the courses. 3 days I would spend there. Weekends spend with the research scholars and so on. But now I guess I have to go full time there. So it's been challenging, a lot of travel up and down, but very satisfying to take something just with a clean slate and get it off the ground. But I managed to identify some very good faculty to come and work with us, good administrative staff. So they've all been very focused and dedicated, so that helped.
So, what message would you like to give to the students studying in IIT Madras, and what does it take to be successful in your chosen career?
Okay, I'll answer the first question, second part of the thing first. I think it's passion and hard work, right? Without that, unfortunately, what I find is maybe sometimes as a faculty member, you have to keep, especially teaching undergraduate course. Sometimes you go to a class, you wonder how many of these guys are really interested or going to pursue the topic you're teaching or the area you're going to be teaching. But I don't blame the kids for that. It's the way the society is, the way the industry is hiring, the way the economy is growing, and the aspirations of their parents and other things. So the thing is, but the important thing is, I think when you're here, you're learning to learn, and you need to do well academically when you're here, right? I also recognize that unlike in the US system, the flexibility in our systems is lesser. That is, especially the dual degree program, if you take someone to decide when they are a 17-year-old kid to say that I'm going to specialize in thermal engineering, I think it's a little early. Because only when you experience the various field subjects and when you've taken them and this thing, you start developing your interests, right? So, but having said that, but once you're here, I think you need to focus on your academic area. But then IITs give you such a it gives you an environment where you can pursue so many interests, right? So it's important that you develop as a full individual your communication skills, your soft skills, your teamwork skills, and there's enough opportunities in IITs to do that. But one of the things that somewhere we need to break this cycle a little bit is the seniors' influence, too much of a seniors' influence on the way, especially in a negative way, right? You need not take things seriously, chalta hai, that kind of thing, which we find there's a considerable influence. Because I've seen that at IIT Tirupati, having had the first batch, I didn't have that issue there. And I could see the kids were much more engaged in terms of what they want to do. So basic message is, I think there's a lot of opportunities coming up. The country's economy is growing. There are a lot of this thing. So people should be passionate about what they're doing, and not just focused on pay packages. When I was advisor alumni affairs, the then placement coordinator came to me and said certain companies have not been coming to IIT Madras for interviewing, and asked me to get in touch with the alumni working in those companies and get them to come and get into the placement process. So I asked him to bring me a flow chart of how you guys do your placement process. He said there's no process, there's only one box. Who pays highest comes first, and then who pays next, right? Then I said, if that is the thing, I'm not going to put my weight behind it. So if salary is the main criteria, and I don't think that in the long run, that is the way to look at things. We have to look at a career, we have to look at what brings you satisfaction, where you can make a contribution, rather than looking at salary as the basis for your choosing a career. So that would be my advice.
So, what has been the most satisfying aspect of your career in IIT Madras?
Mostly working with bright students, right, and the academic freedom. IIT Madras, the IT system gives you so much academic freedom that you can choose the area you're going to work in, how you're going to work, and the direction you want to go. It gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of taking initiatives and so on. So that's been the most satisfying part of my IIT. One is working with bright students. Second thing is the opportunities you have and the academic freedom that you have. And I would say that most faculty are very responsible and use the academic freedom very responsibly.
So who is your role model?
I wouldn't say there's one role model. There are a lot of people who I have always thought of as my mentors. So, so we have had great mentors here. I had, as I told you, Professor C.S. Krishnamurthy, our first HO, head of the department. Such a focused man, such a visionary person. People like Professor Kalyan Raman again in the civil engineering department. Professor Bhaskar, I met Professor M.S. Anant, of previous director, who has again been my mentor and guided me in a lot of things. And the kind of openness with which he used to take things. I worked very closely with the current director, Professor Bhaskar Ramurthy, again the focus with which he's been driving this institute. So a lot of people, Professor V.S. Raju, the former director of IIT Delhi, again I've interacted with and learned a lot of things with them. So these are some of the people who, so I wouldn't say there's one role model. There are a lot of these people. I have a lot of my professors from US, kind of focused. They used to work and the hard work they used to put in. So the number of people who have been influential, so I wouldn't say just one role model. Yeah.
So do you think IIT Madras should somehow encourage students more to go into research track? So like most students aren't exposed to research at all at the undergrad level.
I agree. I see. My thing is, I don't think that everyone should go into research, but I think being institutes of national importance and the people who set the agenda for the various research and even curriculum and other things in engineering programs, I feel that compared to our other engineering colleges, a higher percentage of people here should be getting into research. I'm talking in terms of percentage. And I agree with you that we have not been very, either it's probably, I don't know whether it's a faculty or not taken initiatives or saying adequate initiatives to get the students involved in the research activities. In fact, as a BTech student, when I was here, hardly knew about the research that was going on. Only when you go out and you start your research and you start reading papers, oh, my prof there wrote a paper in this, and so on. So this is something we've been talking about now for a number of years, and I agree that I think we need to get them a little more involved. But see, what happens is today, when I was a student and we graduated, I said almost 70 to 80%, 60 to 70% of the students went abroad, but almost all of them went for a master's, most of them, not all, went for a master's in engineering. So at that time they were still thinking about engineering career. So they looked at their this thing. And so there was a higher probability of more of them getting into research. But today when very few people are going abroad, because very few of them go for engineering programs in India, in the IITs that's been the trend. Which means that most of them are not going into further academic thing, which means the number of people who are eventually going to get into research and this thing as a percentage is coming down compared to earlier. It's something to be be concerned about, and we need to do something about it. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
So thank you for interviewing with us.
Thanks a lot.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much. Yeah.